Cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment, where individuals create their own subjective social reality from their perception of the input. Essentially, these biases are mental shortcuts that often lead us astray, influencing our decisions and beliefs, and are a cornerstone for understanding how human thinking can often be irrational. They are critical to exploring the fascinating world of cognitive processes because they reveal the hidden mental pathways that shape our perceptions, decisions, and interactions. Understanding cognitive biases is crucial because they significantly impact our lives, from everyday decisions to critical judgments in professional settings. For instance, the confirmation bias leads individuals to favor information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs while disregarding evidence to the contrary. This bias plays a fundamental role in shaping political opinions and fostering echo chambers online, where people are only exposed to views similar to their own. Another example is the availability heuristic, where individuals estimate the likelihood of events based on their mental availability. This can explain why people might overestimate the probability of dramatic events, like plane crashes, simply because they receive more media coverage, thus being more available in one's mind. Opinions supporting the need to understand cognitive biases emphasize the strive for better decision-making and fostering critical thinking. Many educators and psychologists argue that by recognizing these biases, individuals can cultivate a more reflective and less impulsive approach to information processing. However, some critics argue that focusing too heavily on biases may lead to overcorrection or analysis paralysis, where individuals second-guess their decisions to the point of inaction. Challenges in addressing cognitive biases include the difficulty in changing ingrained thought patterns and the complexity of designing interventions that efficiently reduce bias influence. Some scholars suggest that while awareness of these biases is the first step, practical skills for debiasing are less understood and require further research. Cognitive biases are interwoven with every aspect of decision-making and perception. They influence not just personal judgments, but also broader societal trends and behaviors. By delving into these psychological predispositions, one can better comprehend the broader implications they have on fields like behavioral economics, politics, and media. This deep dive into cognitive biases sets a foundation for unraveling the psychological tapestries that shape human interaction and societal norms, offering insights into both the limitations and potentials of human cognition. Cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment, which often influence our decisions and perceptions without us even realizing it. At the core, cognitive biases can be seen as our brain's shortcuts to help process information quickly, albeit sometimes inaccurately. They're significant in the context of understanding human behavior because they reveal the intricate ways our minds play tricks on us, shaping our decisions and worldviews in ways that are not always aligned with objective reality. Consider, for instance, the confirmation bias, where individuals favor information that confirms their existing beliefs while disregarding information that contradicts them. This bias is significant as it underscores why people often latch on to misinformation in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Another example is the anchoring bias, where the first piece of information encountered heavily influences subsequent judgments and decisions. This bias can be observed in pricing strategies, where a product's initial price sets an expectation that affects how all subsequent prices are perceived. Experts in psychology have continuously highlighted the role cognitive biases play in various societal domains, such as in media consumption, where selective exposure to media that aligns with one's preconceptions reinforces biases, thus fostering polarization. Similarly, biases in the workplace can impact hiring and promotion decisions, often to the detriment of diversity and inclusion objectives. However, some argue that cognitive biases can also be adaptive, helping us make efficient decisions under pressure or when information is incomplete. While cognitive biases shed light on the intricacies of human cognition, they also present challenges. For example, biases can lead to flawed decision-making in critical situations, like in courtrooms or medical settings, where objective judgments are crucial. Additionally, some scholars question whether the concept of cognitive bias overemphasizes irrationality in human thought. potentially overshadowing our capacity for logical reasoning. Cognitive biases profoundly influence other aspects of understanding the human mind, including emotional intelligence, interpersonal communication, and the formation of belief systems. Without acknowledging these biases, efforts to address societal issues or improve individual decision-making may be incomplete. By appreciating how these mental shortcuts influence behavior, we gain a better understanding of ourselves and others, thereby opening doors to more empathetic and effective interactions in our daily lives. Understanding cognitive biases, therefore, is not only essential for personal development, but also for fostering more harmonious and informed communities. Understanding the basics of cognitive biases involves delving into how these mental shortcuts influence our perceptions and decisions. Cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from rationality in judgment, leading us to make illogical conclusions. Our brains are wired for efficiency and often rely on these biases as mental shortcuts to process information quickly. However, this efficiency frequently comes at the cost of accuracy, causing our minds to play tricks on us. The significance of understanding cognitive biases lies in their pervasive impact on various aspects of life, from personal decision-making to societal behaviors. Recognizing these biases enhances self-awareness, allowing individuals to make more informed choices and develop critical thinking skills. It also empowers people to mitigate the negative effects of these biases on interpersonal relationships, workplace environments, and broader societal issues. To illustrate, consider the anchoring bias, where people's decisions are unduly influenced by the first piece of information they encounter. For example, when negotiating salaries, the initial offer often sets the stage for all subsequent discussions, regardless of its fairness. Another example is the confirmation bias, which leads people to favor information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs. In the context of social media, this bias can create echo chambers, where individuals only interact with like-minded content, limiting exposure to diverse viewpoints. Experts in psychology and behavioral economics, such as Daniel Kahneman, have emphasized the importance of awareness and understanding of cognitive biases. They argue that these biases underline many irrational decisions and advocate for strategies that can reduce their impact, such as fostering environments that encourage diverse perspectives and open dialogues. However, challenges remain. Some critics suggest that labeling human thought processes as biased oversimplifies the complexity of human cognition and underappreciates the evolutionary reasons behind these mental shortcuts. Moreover, there is debate over the extent to which cognitive biases can be corrected or if awareness alone is sufficient. Some argue that overcoming biases requires more than awareness. Systemic changes and interventions are necessary to address underlying cognitive processes. Understanding cognitive biases is interconnected with other aspects of cognitive science and behavioral studies, as it aids in explaining phenomena such as decision fatigue, risk perception, and emotional responses. By appreciating the basics of cognitive biases, we gain insight into how our minds operate, guiding us toward more rational, inclusive, and holistic thinking in a world brimming with information and complexity. Let's explore the intriguing realm of cognitive biases, those fascinating mental shortcuts our brains take that often lead us to make irrational decisions. Cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. These mental errors are part of the human tendency to oversimplify complex information to process it more effectively. They allow for quick decision-making, but can trick the mind into erroneous conclusions, a phenomenon essential to comprehend in understanding human behavior and thought processes. Cognitive biases are significant as they illuminate how our perceptions shape and sometimes distort reality. By understanding these biases, we gain insights into the limitations of our thinking, the influence of emotions on decision-making, and how various cognitive patterns impact our beliefs and actions. This has profound implications not only in personal development but also in fields like economics, politics, and psychology, where understanding human behavior is crucial. To illustrate, consider the confirmation bias, where individuals favor information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs or values while disregarding contradictory evidence. In the age of information, this bias manifests vividly in the consumption of news media. People are more likely to gravitate toward news sources that align with their beliefs, leading to polarized views and echo chambers. Another example is the availability heuristic, which causes people to overestimate the likelihood of events based on their recent exposure to similar incidents. For instance, after watching consistent news coverage of airplane accidents, one might irrationally fear flying, despite statistical evidence proving it to be one of the safest modes of transport. Experts like Daniel Kahneman suggest that while these biases can lead to flawed judgments, awareness and education can mitigate their effects. Critics, however, argue that cognitive biases, being so deeply ingrained, are challenging to overcome completely. Some debate the practicality of applying insights from cognitive biases, especially when emotions dominate rational thought. The discussion on cognitive biases connects to the broader topic by highlighting the intricate interplay of psychology and decision-making. These biases influence everything from everyday choices to policy-making, demonstrating the complexity of human thought. In unveiling how our minds deceive us, we gain a broader perspective on the importance of critical thinking, open-mindedness, and the need for diverse perspectives in decision-making processes. Recognizing and understanding biases not only enhance personal growth, but also enrich our collective interactions, fostering a more empathetic and well-rounded society.